the Soviet Union, the German invasion of the Soviet Union is going on, okay, America is still trying to figure out its place in all of this. All right. So you've got Germany, who's wiping the floor with European countries. They're pressuring Great Britain, and then they're going to invade the Soviet Union. And America says, how do we handle this? There are, and we've mentioned these terms briefly, but there's two main camps of people in America. You got one group that are the isolationists. They believe that America should stick to itself and not worry about European conflicts. You see little rallies where people are holding up signs like this saying, no foreign entanglements. And in the back, they're like, look, any aid or war in Great Britain is total war in America. These isolationists are like, look, we should isolate ourselves. Let Europe handle its own problems. We got a taste of World War the first time in World War I, and that didn't really go that well for us. It was really awkward. Right? So look, you got the isolationists on one side. The other side of this is interventionism. Right? These are people, interventionists believe that America had an obligation to help out other countries in the world. You got to intervene. You have to get involved. Oh, wow. And that's a really tough decision to make. Like even today, like for example, we were talking about at the beginning of class, the coup in Myanmar, right? Do we get involved over there? What do we do? Like right now, the only thing we're doing is we sent out an official statement. Our government sent out an official statement saying we're displeased with it. And we're considering sanctions, economic sanctions, which, that's not it's a decent punishment, but, Myanmar knows we're not sending the military over there either, okay? And so America says most of the people at the time were like, hey, we're in this isolationist camp, okay? We don't want to get involved. We understand that what Hitler's doing over there is pretty crappy, but that's an issue that they can deal with, right? Now, it's not just Hitler and the Nazis in Germany that's a big deal, though. Who else in the Pacific region is a threat to the United States? Japan. Remember, what did they do to the Chinese in their city of Nanking? They murder, rape, destroy anything and everyone in their path. All right. And Americans were like, that's terrible, but we can't get involved over there. And even then, after that, all we did was we just cut off trade with them. All right. We set up an embargo. Okay. So you got these two different groups here. Now, Franklin Roosevelt understands that things are probably going to get out of hand and we're probably going to get dragged into this conflict. So President Roosevelt helps get two laws passed through Congress that are going to be important. One's called the Selective Service Act. The Selective Service is a nice term for what? Anybody know? It's a military draft. Very good. Most people don't know that. I got to hand out some stars today. All right. You answered several questions very well. Okay. The Selective Service Act, and this implements a draft. It makes it so that a draft can be implemented in a hurry. And the way Roosevelt sells this idea to the American people is he says, look, if we start a draft, we're only going to draft people who will serve in the Western Hemisphere, meaning we're not sending people across the globe. You're going to stay on this side of the globe. So people didn't feel threatened by this. They're like, well, if we get drafted, if we have to get the draft going, then they'll only serve over here. Now, that's important, and it helps us establish getting us more mobilized and ready for conflict. So it'll be easier to get our forces overseas and ready to fight in a quick fashion. Okay. Now, the second thing that President Roosevelt does is he and Congress pass a law called the Lend-Lease Act. Right? The Lend-Lease Act. And this allows America to sell weapons and supplies to any of its allies in Europe. This law allows America to sell weapons to any of its allies in Europe. Now, it doesn't mention any names of countries, but who's the only ally we have left? Great Britain, okay? And this was right before the invasion in the Soviet Union, all right? And Franklin Roosevelt says, look, we're not getting involved in the war, but he says we're going to be the arsenal of democracy. If you don't know, arsenal is an old term for where they stored the weapons. And he says, we're going to provide Great Britain with everything they need in order to fight off the Nazis. We'll sell them weapons, we'll give them weapons, we'll do whatever we got to do. Whatever supplies they need, we're going to make it happen. Oh, I like it. Right? By the way, the British were extremely excited for this. But in America, let me ask you, who stands to benefit from this Lend-Lease Act? Who's going to be really excited that this law gets passed? Weapons manufacturers, anybody that's involved in defense, right? Because we're going to need to send tanks, we're going to need to send bullets, right? Rifles, everything that a military might need. And you, as a businessman, see an opportunity. Okay? And so ultimately, businesses are excited. And by the way, what does this help put to an end when we see this jump in business here? The Great Depression. We're getting out of the Great Depression, and helping to provide weapons to Europe is going to be a huge boom for America. All right? So that's going to be super helpful for the United States. The Lend-Lease Act. We're going to sell weapons to our allies over in Europe. And that's a good place for us to stop right there, kiddos.